بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله فاللهم اغفر لنا ولوالدينا ولمشايخنا ولجميع المسلمين أجمعين. So in continuation of the class that we started last week, I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make it sincere for His sake and to make it of benefit and to accept it from us all. We're still on the chapter Kitab al-Tahar. Can everyone see the board? Everyone can see it, right? So Kitab al-Tahar is that which we covered last year. We mentioned the meaning of Tahara. What does Tahara mean in English? Purification. And then we mentioned al-Miyah Thalatha. Okay, al-Miyah Thalatha, different types of waters, which there are three. We mentioned the first one is? Your name, I forgot. Khalid. Khadr. Tuhur. Okay, the next one? Tahir. And the last one? Najis. Khadr, what's the difference between Tuhur and Tahir? So Khadr said Tuhur, which is correct. It's pure in its essence. Tahirun fi nafsihi. Okay, and then? Wait, you didn't finish. You didn't finish the first description. Very good. So Tahirun fi nafsihi, and also so it's pure in its essence, and it also purifies. It also purifies, right? يعني طاهر في نفسه ومطهر. I want someone to finish off what I'm saying. طاهر في نفسه. So it's pure in its essence. For example, like this, we gave an example like of water. This water is tahir, right? It's pure. So it's pure in its essence, and also I can make wudu with it. That's the meaning here when the ulama say طاهر في نفسه ومطهر لغيره. يعني meaning that you can make wudu with this water and it's also pure. The next one, someone other than Khadr. What's your name, akhi? Muhammad. What's the difference? What is the meaning of tahir? Is that correct? Everybody agrees? So the difference between the two, the first one, tuhur, that it's pure, like water. Okay, it's pure in its essence and it purifies. Yani you can use it for wudu. This one, tahir, is pure in its essence, but you can't use it for wudu. What's an example? Like milk or honey. We gave an example last week. Something like milk. Any other examples? Okay. Barakallahu feekum. So we gave another example of the fact that what? If you've got a basin or a big bowl and you make wudu in it, someone else can't come and use that water to make wudu. The other brother gave example of milk and honey. Anything that's pure goes under this category. Mu'min. The first one, but what? Is that correct? Mu'min said the tahir goes under also, yani that which fits under this category is water that's been stolen. Okay, but which category? The first one, is it makruh or is it haram? اختلف العلماء. What's the correct opinion? Remember, we mentioned it here. Who's got the matan in front of them? Who's got the reference in front of them? Who's got the matan in front of them? Is it makruh or is it haram? Yeah. It's haram, exactly. Because if you say it's makruh, it's different. Okay, we're not going to get into the different types, the meanings, but you should all know what the difference between makruh and haram. What's the difference between makruh and haram? Or maybe I should give it as homework. I'll give it as homework for next week, ikhwani. The different terminologies that we use, the mustalahat that we use with regards to Islamic rulings, whether something is halal, haram, makruh, mustahab. I want someone next week to come up on the board and actually write it for us, the different types. Okay, because we have to understand the meaning. If you say makruh, it's different if you say haram. Okay? If you say makruh, it's different if you say haram. If you say sunnah, it's different if you say mustahab. If you say jaiz, it's different if you say, and so on and so forth. Okay, ikhwani. So then after that, we mentioned we're on this one. This is the type that we didn't go into. Okay, so that's like in summary of these two, maghsoob. And then we mentioned tahirun. La yarfa al-hadath wa la yuzil al-khabath. Okay? La yarfa al-hadath wa la yuzil al-khabath. Yani you can't use it to make wudu with it. You can't use it to remove impurities. The example the brother gave, like honey and milk and what have you. But it's tahir. In itself, in its own essence, it is tahir, it's pure. Okay? And then we gave examples of if something was to be next to it. بغير ممازج, يعني if something's next to it, يخالطه, if something goes into the water, and so on and so forth. Okay, as for this lesson, الثالث, who's got the method in front of them? If someone can read. Anyone? Anyone's got the method? Can you read it? Yeah. Okay, who can read it? Oh, in English, doesn't matter, Arabic or English. The third one. Mu'min, is it okay if we go after Isha? Yeah. Ikhwani, just to announce, maybe because I don't want to leave it until next week. I've got a lot to cover, so we might just go a little bit after Isha if that's okay with you lot, for those that can stay.
الثالث نجس يحرم استعماله مطلقا وهو ما تغير بنجاسة في غير محل تطهير أو لاقاها في غيره وهو يسير والجاري كالراكد والكثير قلتان.
جزاك الله خير. بارك الله فيك شيخ. So here it mentioned here الثالث نجس. Okay, what does najis mean in English? Huh? Impure. So here meaning لا يجوز استعماله. Okay, to summarize all of that, لا يجوز استعماله. Okay, any water that's najis, that's impure, you cannot use it at all. Okay, mutlaqan, meaning in any sort of case or scenario, you can't use it in any scenario. You cannot use that specific water. Why? Because of the fact that it is najis. لا يجوز استعماله. And then it's mentioned here وهو ما يتغير. Okay, وهو ما تغير بنجاسة. What's the meaning of that? That which changes due to the impurity. An example, 3 types of examples. Either it changes by the way of color. Okay, either it changes by the way of color. Okay, by the way of color, which is loan. That's number 1. Number 2, okay, طعم. It's number 2. That's number 1. Number 2. And the other one, so the first one is that it changes color. The second one is that it changes, what does طعم mean in English? It's taste. So for example, if you put honey in this, it's going to change completely. If you put honey in water, it will change completely. So the first one, it changes in color. If you were to put food coloring in this, it changes color. Okay? The second one, it changes طعم. Okay, meaning taste. What's the last one? Who can tell me what the last one is? Huh? By the smell, ريح. Okay? By the way of it changing in terms of its smell. So if any of this happens, and of course you know that it's changed. You can't call it the same water. It's not going to be called water anymore. Okay? It doesn't have the same ruling. It doesn't have the same ruling. If, however, and all of these goes back down to if it's changed that which the muallif says, the musannif mentions here, وَهُوَ مَا تَغَيَّرَ بِنَجَاسَةٍ. So this is the condition of it being haram to use and it being called najis, is that if it has been changed by something that is from najasa, from the impurities. Okay? Can everyone read that, by the way? Is it clear? Because I don't have very good handwriting, just to let you know. And I don't write the normal way. This is khat al-ruq'a for those that have studied khat. So here, this is the sin and this is tam marbuta. So here, if it's changed by najasa, then that means, if it's changed by najasa, it means it is najis. So therefore, yuhram isti'maluhu. However, if it's changed by something of tahir, okay, which the muallif mentions here, فَإِذَا تَغَيَّرَ بِشَيْءٍ طَاهِرٍ لَمْ يَكُنْ نَجِسٍ يَكُنْ طَاهِرٍ. If it's been changed, for example, if you put something that's tahir in this water, then you can't call it najis. Why? Because of the fact that it hasn't been changed with an impurity. All of that which we're talking about and discussing today, that which is haram for you to use, is that which has been changed by an impurity. Whether it will be by the color, or the ta'am, or the rih. Okay? And these are the different types of ways that something can change, i.e. meaning the water. And then the next part he mentions, the muallif, and also from that which is haram for you to use, from something that we call najis, because here he's explaining that which is called najis. What's najis, the third type? From the other things, وَهُوَ مَا تَغَيَّرَ بِنَجَاسَةٍ. We mentioned this here. فِي غَيْرِ مَحَلِّ تَطْهِيرٍ. For example, if this is the part of a limb, okay, that you make wudu in, from here until the elbow, okay? If you've got najis on here, and you try to wash it away with water, you can't make hukum of that specific najis until it goes off the body that is tahir, because this body, the limb, is tahir. Okay, so the muallif explaining here, meaning that if you have a specific impurity on your body part that is tahir, then you don't make the ruling of najis until it goes off that body part. Does that make sense? That's what he's talking about. For example, you can make a ruling in here. Why? Because this is nothing to do with your body limb that which you make wudu in. It's just water. The next part, أو لاقاها في غيره وهو يسير. So, an example of this, أو لاقاها أي ماء نجاسة, يعني meaning if something of the water, okay, has touched, something of najasa has touched the water, okay, then that's what the muallif is talking about. إذا تغير الماء بالنجاسة فهو نجس سواء هو كثير أو قليل. The muallif explains here saying that if something changes the water, for example, you've got water here, and something changes the water, that's from an impurity, whether it will be a lot or not, but it has changed the water by way of smell, by way of taste, or by way of, color, taste, or smell, then it is najis and it is haram for you to use. Whether it's a lot of it, a lot of that impurity, or not a lot of it. Okay? So there's no condition. If it changes it, it changes it. If it changes it, it changes it. Is everyone with me? Okay. If a specific impurity, okay, has touched the water, okay, has been mixed with the water. However, it doesn't change the water. Okay? Does that water become impure or it stays tahur? This is where the khilaf came in. Okay? This is where the khilaf comes in, meaning this is what the ulama they're talking about with regards to this specific point. Because, and I'll give you the bullet points, I'll give you 1, 2, 3, 4, so you can see, because it splits into 4 different types. There's 4 scenarios. But the first type that we're talking about, a najasa has made contact with water, and it changes the water by way of color, taste, or smell. There's no khilaf. It's impure, and therefore it is haram for you to use. If the water has been mixed with, the impurity has touched the water and it's been mixed with the water, but it doesn't change the water, this is where the ulama, they say there's khilaf. The khilaf is, some of them say, يقولون الماء القليل بنجس. Okay, if the water is little in quantity, if you've got, for example, just, let's say half of it, or just this, let's say just this, you've got this, how many? There's 500 milliliters, right? You've got this of water. Okay, of this water, if something of najasa touches it, a small portion or not a small portion, okay, what's the ruling? It's a question, ikhwani. Okay, if something of small, yani let's say for example, I'll give you another, just make it clear. Can I rub this off? Actually, no, I don't need to rub this off. Look, let me make it clear. So, picture number 1. If we have, to make it easier for you, we'll get straight into it, the 4 different types. Here you have water, okay? Not a lot of the water, okay? You have a small quantity of water. And something of najasa has touched this water, it's been mixed with this water. Al-ma' al-qalil, okay? And it has changed the water. Does that become najis or it is tahur? Why? Because it's changed the water. So let's make that as number 1. Okay, let's make that as point number 1. Ikhwani, do you prefer me to write in English or Arabic, by the way? Let's write Arabic, it's better. Even if you prefer me to write in English. Okay, so we have number 1. Huh? No, it's alright, I'll get up, it's okay. So we have number 1, yeah? Point number 1. Al-ma' al-qalil, okay? تغير بنجاسة. The hukum of it, it becomes what? Najis. Okay? And this one here is bil ijma'. There's no khilaf. That's point number one. Okay, bil ijma', meaning there's a consensus of the ulama that there is no khilaf in this. Bil ijma', it is najis. Okay, and then you have so the second one. لم يتغير. Okay, same thing, a small portion of water, okay, the quantity is small, but it hasn't been changed. What's the ruling? So the first one we said, متغير, it's been changed, okay, by that which it's been touched of the impurity. We said bil ijma', it becomes what? It's najis. As for the second one, the second type, which is al-ma' qaleel, okay, غير متغير, يعني it hasn't been changed by the najasa that has touched it. What does that become? The ulama, they say, They say فيه خلاف. فيه خلاف عند المذهب الحنابلة. There's khilaf in the school of thought of the Hanabila. Okay, but that which is correct is that it is najis. What's the hadith? There's a hadith because of the hadith. إذا بلغ الماء قلتين كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لم يحمل الخبث. Okay, the hadith. Okay, إذا بلغ الماء قلتين لم يحمل الخبث. So this one here, because of the fact that it has not been changed, okay, they use this hadith and they say أنه نجس. But some of them they say from the schools of thought of Imam Ahmed, some of the aqwal, is that it is not najis, but that which is correct if it has not been changed. But however, because of the fact the water is small in quantity, it hasn't ما بلغ قلتين, we're going to get into that, it hasn't reached قلتين, which is a lot of water, it comes under the same ruling of the fact that it's najis. Okay, is that clear, Ikhwani? So, it's the same ruling here. And then the next one. Al-ma' al-kathir. That's the point number 3. Okay, ma' al-kathir. Okay. غير متغير. يعني it hasn't been changed. It's been touched with impurity, but it hasn't been changed. What's this one? What's the ruling, Ikhwani? Is it najis? Is it tahur? فيه khilaf? I don't know. Which one? Tahur. Bil ijma'. Okay. Okay. Meaning you have a lot of water. It hasn't been touched by any impurity. It hasn't been affected. It hasn't changed it. Okay. It hasn't changed. That's the main. That which were circulating, that which were hawla, that which were surrounding, is the word, the fact that it hasn't been changed or it has been changed. That's what's going to change everything, okay, Ikhwani? So make sure you get that clear. تغير أو لم يتغير. So this one here, a lot of water, it hasn't changed. What happens? It is tahur. Bil ijma'. There's no khilaf in that. There's no difference of opinion in that. And then the last one is a lot of water, okay, that has changed. It's been touched by an impurity and it has changed. Barakallahu fiqh Muhammad. It is najis bil ijma'. So those are the 4 different types. I hope inshallah everyone can see that. Everyone, if you can't see it, you've heard it. These are the 4 different types. The first one, you've got a lot of water, okay, and it's been changed by impurity. Najis bil ijma'. It's impure. You can't use it. You cannot use that water. Second type, a lot of water, however, a little bit of water, but it hasn't been changed. It's still under the same form as it was before the impurity touched it, but it falls under the same category. It is najis. The third type is a lot of water and it hasn't been changed. It is tahur. It is pure, bil ijma'. The last one is a lot of water that has been changed. It is najis it has been changed, najis bil ijma'. Okay, ikhwani? So that's اختصار of that which the muallif says all the way when he says أو لاقاها في غيره وهو يسير. Okay? And the hadith to support it, can I rub the first bit off, ikhwani? These two here. Yeah? So here to support the hadith. إذا بلغ الماء قلتين لم يحمل الخبث. Okay, this is the hadith, authentic narration by the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, and we're going to explain what that means. إذا بلغ الماء قلتين لم يحمل الخبث. The meaning of that is قلتين, that which we know today, is roughly around 300 liters. Okay, 300 liter. يعني it's a lot. Okay, they say ذراع وربع, يعني ذراع وربع, literally arm's length and a quarter, width, length, height and depth. So that's a lot of water. That's what it's equivalent to today, يعني 300 liters. Okay, so let's go back. So with regards to these types, the last part, who has it in English? Okay, do you have it in English? What does it say in the end? Now go back before that. I can't hear you, Habib, I can't hear you. Oh, sorry. Can I say it? Sorry. Jazakallah khair. Because here it says here, أو لاقاها في غيره وهو يسير والجاري كالراكد. Where is it here? Yeah, so here is flowing water, okay? والجاري كالراكد. Flowing water is akin to stagnant, يعني that which is not flowing. So here, and obviously he's mentioned it here, 162 liters. So 42.8 gallons, basically. That's ماء قلتين. جزاك الله خير أخي. So it's mentioned here the same hukum it takes. That which is flowing and that which is not flowing has the same hukum. Okay? أن الماء الجاري كمثل الماء الراكد في الحكم. Okay? Meaning if the flowing water has been changed by something that's impure, it's going to be the same. For example, if you see a river, let's say, I'll give you an example, you've got like a little pond, and that little pond, the water's flowing, or the river, the water's flowing. If something touches it from impurity, and let's say it's pure, let's say all of it is pure, something touches it of impurity, then it's going to take the same ruling as if you were to have water in a bathtub, for example. But it's not flowing, it's in a bathtub, and that water is completely pure, however, something of impurity has touched it. The same hukum as if it is flowing. That's what the muallif is talking about here, and that's what he's referring to. So they take the same hukum in terms of if they haven't been touched by an impurity and it hasn't changed it, then it's going to remain pure and you can use it. Does that make sense? Someone else hasn't used the water in a bathtub, that is. Yes, akhi. Huh? It goes back down to these four. It goes back down to these four. Meaning if it's a lot of it and it hasn't been changed, then it's pure. If it's a lot of it, that's what it said here, وَالْمَاءُ الْجَارِ كَالرَّاكِدِ. If it's flowing, but obviously, look, we're not going to get into the intricacies, ikhwani, of if you go to the river and what have you. We'll take that hadith another time. Jazakallah khair. الْمَاءُ الطَّهُورُ لَا يُنَجِّسُهُ شَيْءٍ. That's if you want to talk about, for example, can I make, because many people ask, for example, is it okay for you to dive into the water and come out? That's the hadith of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu. If that's what you're asking, meaning the water's flowing. If you go to a sea and you dive in, you come out. The water, if the asl of it is pure, that's what the muallif is talking about. And then you are to compare it to that which is not flowing, as long as it hasn't been touched by an impurity. That's what the muallif is referring to. Okay, ikhwani, then let's move on. Because ikhwani, let's try and keep the questions at the end as well so that we are able to complete this. And then he explained it. He explains what qullatayn is, but we don't need to do that because we've explained 42.8 gallons, يعني roughly around 300 liters. That's what qullatayn is. باب الآنية.
كل إناء طاهر يباح اتخاذه واستعماله إلا أن يكون ذهبا أو فضة أو مضببا بإحداهما، لكن تباح ضبة يسيرة من فضة لحاجة وما لم تعلم نجاسته من آنية كفار، وثيابهم طاهرة ولا يطهر جلد ميتة بدباغ وكل أجزائها نجسة إلا شعرا ونحوه والمنفصل من حي كميتته.
جزاك الله خير. So the Shaykh we just read here, as you heard, this bab is bab al-aniya. What does aniya mean? Huh? Utensils. So that's what the topic is at. That was what we're talking about is utensils. Okay? Kitab al-Aniya now, second chapter. Kitab al-Aniya, okay? That which is allowed for us to use to make wudu in. That's what the mu'allif is talking about. We're not talking about generally what's the hukm of al-Aniya because we'll get into that. But what it's talking about here, al-Aniya التي تستعمل للطهارة, that which you're going to use to make ablution. It has shurut. From the shurut, shart number 1, number 2, is that it has to what? It has to be tahir. It has to be pure. It has to be tahir. Let me make اختصار. أن يكون طاهرا, I'll just write tahir. It has to be tahir. Number 2, it has to be mubah. Okay? I should say, it has to be mubah. And what does that mean? It's not stolen, but who said not stolen? Muhammad. So, خرج من ذلك مغصوب. Okay? If you write mubah, خرج من ذلك كل شيء الذي مغصوب. يعني that which has been taken and has been stolen, and has been taken from someone's possession. We gave the example last week. For example, if you've got water, okay, and I've got water and Khadr comes right now and steals this off me, we have a fight and he steals it off me, gets it off me, he can use it, it's pure. But if he makes wudu with it, is his wudu accepted? Why? Because he stole the water that didn't belong to him. So same thing as aniya, any the utensils. If you were to take someone's utensil and you were to use it, to put water in it to make wudu, and it is stolen, then your wudu is not accepted. Point number 3. So this one, خرج بذلك كل نجس. Everything that's najis, impure from the utensils, you can't use it to make wudu. Okay, so the first one is tahir. It has to be tahir. That's point number 1. Okay, point number 2, it has to be mubah. It has to be halal for you to use it. And it belongs to you, or it's something that you have permission to use. The last one is that it cannot be. It can't be gold. It can't be made from gold, pure gold. It can't be made from pure silver, and it can't be mudabbaban. What does mudabbaban mean? What does that mean? Meaning mixed. Meaning it can't be mixed. For example, if something is mixed with gold or silver, then you can't use it. Okay? These are the 3 different conditions of using a utensil for the means of purification. Yani for wudu. It can't be najis, it has to be pure. It can't be stolen, it has to be mubah. You have to have permission to use it, and it can't be made from gold or silver or mixed with gold and silver. Okay? And each and every single thing, it says here, كل إناء طاهر يباح اتخاذه واستعماله. Everything that you can use in terms of if you possess and you own it, then of course you can use it to make wudu with it. Okay, if it belongs to you. And then what's the hadith to support this? What's the hadith to support this? The hadith of Hudayfa radiallahu anhu, which mentions لا تشرب في آنية ذهب والفضة ولا تأكل من سحافها فإنها لهم في الدنيا ولكم في الآخرة. Okay, this hadith of كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, that it is not permissible for you to what? To drink and to eat from the utensils of that which is made from silver and from gold. Okay, and any other than that, because of the fact that it is for them, i.e. the non-Muslims, in this worldly life, and it is for you, i.e. O Muslims, in the hereafter. Okay, that's the hadith regarding that which was mentioned. However, it's mentioned here that it says, so مضببا, it says لكن تباح ضبة, it says here تباح ضبة يسيرة, يعني يسيرة من فضة لحاجة. However, with regards to silver, okay, so we've mentioned these things. As for, is it allowed to use a utensil that has been mixed with silver? It's allowed for you to use from the utensils that have been mixed with silver if you meet the four conditions. The first one being the fact that it has to only be mixed. Okay? It has to only be mixed. The second one, it has to be for a reason, lihaja. And we're going to explain them inshallah. The third one, it has to be only a little bit, and yakuna yasiran. And the last one is, it has to be from fidda only. So these are the different types, okay? So it's allowed for you to use the utensils made from silver if it has been mixed. And why is it going to be mixed? For example, if I've got a utensil here in front of me, pretend it's a utensil, it's not made from silver or gold, but a part of it breaks. This is an example the mu'allif uses. A part of it breaks, and the only thing that I can find is something of silver, made from silver. So I come and take it to those that, fix utensils, and they mix it, and they fix it with the silver part, and they mix it with my utensil. So now this has become mudabbaban, yani it's mixed. Okay? Now can I use it? Okay, if it's only been used for haja, the haja is I need to make wudu and I don't have anything else. Point number 3, أن يكون يسيرا, only a little portion of silver has been used with this utensil that I had initially that wasn't made of silver. And point number 4 is that I didn't mix anything except for silver, I didn't mix gold. Okay, that's when it's allowed and permissible for you to use a utensil that's made from silver, if these conditions are met. If these conditions are met. And the hadith of Anas radiallahu anhu, from one of the qadh, which is basically that which you call a pot today, of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in Kasar, it broke, and then they used the salsala of fidda. They used a portion of silver to put it back together and to fix it. Okay, with regards to لحاجة, okay, we covered that point. ما لم تعلم نجاسته من آنية الكفار وثيابهم طاهر. If someone asks, let me ask you the question, is it allowed for you to use a utensil from the non-Muslims? Someone, not you, not Khadr, someone else. Akhi, what's your name? Hassan. Is it allowed? Am I allowed to use a utensil from the non-Muslims? Non-Muslim. Huh? I didn't say selling. Like for example, okay, let's say selling. Okay, I bought a utensil from non-Muslim in the shops here. Am I allowed to use it? MashaAllah, very good answer. يقولون نصف الجواب قول الله أعلم. That's basically got half the answer. The question is it allowed to use a utensil from the non-Muslims? Is it allowed? Is it tahir? Is it allowed? The brother says no. The brother says, what's your name? Muhammad says no. Mu'min. Say yes. No. Yes. These ones here or these ones? The top 4. Okay. Yes. Anyone have proof of what they're saying? Okay, let's say it's brand new, they've never used it. So Muhammad says if tahir is not gold or silver, I don't see why not. Any proof for that, Muhammad? I like that one, very, very good. Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh. He read it. I think that's cheating because he read it. He saw the answer already. But what he says is correct. All of you, what you said, you have to go back to the asl. The asl is exactly what the Shaykh says. If you don't know that there's any impurity within these utensils, then why can't you use it? The proof for it, الذي ثبت عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه استعمل وتوضأ وأكل من آنية عن كفار ولم يعني يسألهم عن طهارة يعني the Prophet ﷺ, the proof of it is the Prophet ﷺ himself ate, drank and made wudu within the utensil of the non-Muslims, and he didn't ask any question whether it is pure unless it was told to him, or unless you know, that's when, like the brother Muhammad said in the beginning, unless you know that there is a specific thing that's impure of it, or mathalan, like what we mentioned here, it's stolen, or for example it's made of gold, then that's when you can't use it. But apart from that, the asl is, the foundation is that it is allowed, it is permissible. It is allowed, it is permissible. Okay, so if you don't know, it's permission, it's permissible. And if you haven't been told, or news hasn't come to you that it's been stolen, or it's made of gold, or it's impure, then it is permissible for you to use it. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah doesn't burden a soul more than it can burden. So something that you found out afterwards, you're not responsible for. Just like, for example, if you were to eat something, let's say, for example, someone came and gave you pork, but you didn't know it was pork, and you eat it. Are you going to be held accountable? Huh? So, Ikhwani, so that's regarding that specific thing. Okay, now, as for so there's a hadith, authentic narration, okay, Abu Tha'lab al-Khushani radiyallahu anhu, which says, paraphrasing it, that with regards to the utensils of the non-Muslims, do not use it, لا تأكلوا منها, okay, and don't use it إلا أن لا تجد غيرها, except if you don't find any other than their utensils, فاغسلوها, then wash it, وكلوا منها. So this hadith is the fact that the ulama, they explain this hadith, which basically goes against what we just said. But that's if you know that it is impure. But the asl is that the utensils of the non-Muslims are pure for you to use. Are pure for you to use. Okay, then the last portion, which mentions regarding that which is permissible for you to use from the who has the you have in English مكتوب في الإنجليزية آخر شيء اللي ولا يطهر جد ميتة بدباغ.
Is it the every container? Yeah. Is it the skin of unslaughtered animals? Yeah. The skin of unslaughtered animals that became filthy by dying is not purified via tanning. All of its parts are filth except its hair and the like, e.g. feathers and wool, as these remain pure when they are from an animal that is pure while alive, or an inedible animal like a cat or something smaller. Anything separated from a live creature is akin to an unslaughtered creature of its type in being pure or filthy.
أول شيء إيش مكتوب؟
It says only the containers and clothes of non-Muslims are.
لا what you just read now. ولا يطهر.
أول شيء, it says
ولا يطهر.
the skin of an slaughtered animal.
Unslaughtered or slaughtered?
No, unslaughtered. Unslaughtered.
Unslaughtered.
Yes, unslaughtered animal.
جزاك الله خير. So here, this point here is important, Ikhwani. So here, it's not permissible for you to use any of the skin, okay, of unslaughtered animal that become filthy by dying, meaning they die without being slaughtered, okay? And here, this point here is actually important and is key for us to understand. What does it mean, يعني الميتة. What does it mean, الميتة? يعني the animals that are dead. That which is from the حيوانات that have not been, يعني غير مذكر. غير مذكر means that which have not been slaughtered. That which have not been slaughtered, إخواني, okay? So that which have not been slaughtered, you cannot use their skin and what have you for something يعني of purification and something of use. However, it's mentioned here in the matan وَنَحْوَهُ. What's the meaning وَنَحْوَهُ? Meaning of the likes, إِلَّا شَعْرًا, meaning وَكُلُّ أَجْزَائِهَا نَجِسًا. Each part of the animal is of course impure, except some of the things يعني from the hair and other things. So إخواني, the exception, Bismillah, alhamdulillah, sallallahu the exception that you can use يعني that which of course we know many use is the wool, the fur, okay, the hair of the animals, okay? And the proof is the statement of Allah Azza wa Jal in Surah Al-Nahl, when Allah mentions وَمِنْ أَوْصَافِهَا وَأَوْبَارِهَا وَأَشْعَارِهَا أَثَاثًا وَمَتَاعًا إِلَى حِينٍ. يعني, and of their wool, fur, hair, يعني from the sheep and the camel and what have you, you can use from that which you need of carpets, of blankets and what have you, as a comfort for a while. مَتَاعًا إِلَى حِينٍ. So this here is a proof that you can use it, but of course we're not talking about those that have not been slaughtered. We're talking about those that have been slaughtered. That's why it's mentioned here, you can use it of the animals. You can use it of the animals. So these different four types, يعني meaning from, this is the qa'idah, meaning the wool, the fur, and the different parts of the animals, you can use it, and the ruling, يعني the ruling of using them is going to be the same ruling as if they were alive, okay? Meaning these different types of animals. The next part, Habibi. The next chapter.
فصل الاستنجاء واجب من كل خارج إلا الريح والطاهرة وغير الملوث. وسن عند دخول خلاء قول بسم الله اللهم إني أعوذ بك من الخبث والخبائث وبعد خروج من غفرانك الحمد لله الذي أذهب عني الأذى وعافاني. وتغطية رأس وانتعال وتقديم رجله اليسرى دخولا واعتماده عليها جلوسا واليمنى خروجا عكس مسجد ونعل ونحوهما وبعد في قضاء وطلب مكان رخو لبول ومسح الذكر باليد اليسرى إذا انقطع البول من أصله إلى رأسه ثلاثا ونتره ثلاثا.
جزاك الله خير. So here, as you heard the Shaykh reading, he's mentioned here al-istinja. And what's the meaning of al-istinja, ikhwani? What's the meaning of al-istinja? The meaning of it, the ulama, they mention إزالة خارج يعني من السبيل, من سبيلين, okay? يعني النجس بماء, that which you use to cleanse yourself, okay, when you've gone to the lavatory, okay? That's the meaning of al-istinja. When you use water, that's called al-istinja. And this specific chapter, it's really crucial for us, specifically living in the West, due to the fact that unfortunately us Muslims have taken the customs and the traditions of the non-Muslims. Many of us, when it comes to cleaning ourselves, okay, when it comes to cleaning ourselves when we go to the lavatory, and we don't teach and cultivate our children to be from those that understand the importance of this, okay? Then and the meaning of al-istijmar, so there's istinja and istijmar. There's two types, okay? You have so I've written in English as well just to make it clear. Al-istinja, what you use with water, يعني. Okay, that's istinja. Al-istijmar, the meaning here, the ulama, they mentioned that which you use bil-hajr. That, of course, that was used in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And وَمَا يَشْبَهُ, that which يعني, comes in the lines of that which is like rocks, meaning, of course, like tissue. What we have nowadays is tissue. Okay, that's the meaning. يعني, you've got al-istinja, and then you've got al-istijmar. Al-istinja and istijmar. So the Musannif, he said here, and the meaning of it is izala, that which you use to take off the impurities, to take off the najasa. And then it says, illa ar-rih. So this is another thing. We've got something called ar-rih. What's your name, akhi? Labano. Okay, it says here, illa ar-rih. Why did he say except for rih? What does that mean in English, first of all? Everything that exits. Huh? Yeah. That's what we're on, exactly. يعني meaning it is wajib for you to do istinja and istijmar. يعني wajib, it's a mandatory obligation for every Muslim. What time is the iqamah? Okay, for 3 minutes. So here, al-istinja, al-istijmar. Water and tissue, it's wajib. Then it says, illa rih. For example, when you pass wind, is it wajib or not wajib? Do you have to make tahara? You have to make tahara. Labanat mentions. Anyone else? Mu'min. You have to make tahara. So when you pass wind, you have to make tahara. Muhammad. Why? Okay, but why? Very good. Something else. I'm looking for something else. What is it then? It's tahir. It's tahir. Where's the najis in the actual rih? It's tahir. Does that make sense? It's tahir. Okay, it's tahir. Okay, فلا يحتاج الاستنجاء ولا الاستجمال. Okay, it's tahir in itself. يعني the actual wind in itself is tahir. So it says إلا الريح. Okay, والطاهر. Okay, meaning, a simple example, إخواني, so let's say for example someone had passed stones, those that have kidney stones, أكرمكم الله صلى الله يشفي جميع المسلمين. يعني those that have for example stones and it passes, that in itself as well, is that najis? It's not najis, so that in itself as well, you don't need to make wudu for it. يعني meaning you don't need to use istinja and istijmar. Okay? And the last one is talawuth. What does that mean, talawuth? Ikhwan, anyone? Yes. Contaminated. Oh, another example. Give me an example. That which is polluted, contaminated, does not defile. The brother said, meaning the water that doesn't what? It doesn't flow. So anything that doesn't stay or doesn't stain, these are examples that you don't need to make al-istinja, al-istijmar. Okay? Ikhwani, I think it's Isha, inshallah. We'll stop for the salah. And then, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we'll continue after the salah, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك صلى الله عليه وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى اله وصحبه اجمعين. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. So just in continuation of the lesson, we stopped at that which is mandatory for everything that leaves, that is, when it comes to cleaning oneself with water or with stones or the like, al-istinja and istijmar. And we mentioned that al-istinja is cleaning yourself with water, al-istijmar is with tissue. Now, ikhwani, just not to... because of the fact that we know la haya fi din, okay, there is no shyness with regards to the aspects of that which pertains to the religion. Many times you see nowadays brothers and sisters, they enter the lavatory and some of them, maybe you see that they just use tissue when they defecate, and you do number 2, and they still have najis within their body parts, and then they go and they pray salah. Each and every salah they're praying is batil upon that specific way. Many of them, they do that which the kuffar do. They go to do, to relieve themselves, meaning they defecate, they use a toilet, and then they just do al-istijmar, and they haven't used al-istinja. Because of the fact that, once again, we've taken a custom and we've taken the traditions of the non-Muslims. But as a Muslim, as a mu'min, as we know, at-tahara min al-iman. It's from the basics that one has to make sure they use al-istinja first and foremost, and al-istijmar. Another thing as well, that we know the hadith of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what is from the means of a person receiving punishment in their grave. When the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam went to a grave and he saw two people being, and he says, إِنَّهُمَا مُعَذِّبَانِ, they are verily, these two people are being punished. What was the reason of one of them? Khadr. Barakallahu fiqh. One of them did not clean themselves. They had parts, drips, qatarat, drips that dripped onto their garments. And you find today a Muslim calls himself a Muslim, a believer, goes into the toilets, akramakumullah, into the lavatories, and he does his, we're talking about the men, that is. And this is something that we shouldn't shy away from, but rather we should teach our youth, our family members, your children, those that you have responsibility, those that are under your care. When they go, it's aib, aarun alaykum. It's shameful as a Muslim to go and use that which the kuffar use when they're using a toilet. When you stand, how is your salah being accepted? How are you able to clean yourself? Ikhwani, one thing you have to realize as a mu'min, you have sharaf, you have honor, you have izzah. And you should try your utmost best to realize and understand that as a Muslim you have rules and regulations. And the Prophet ﷺ, مَا تَرَكَ شَيْئًا إِذَا كَانَ خَيْرًا لَنَا إِلَّا دَلَّنَا عَلَيْهِ. There wasn't a single thing Prophet ﷺ left that was good for us except that he showed us. وَمَا تَرَكَ شَيْئًا شَرٌّ لَنَا إِلَّا حَذَّرْنَا مِنْهِ. There's not a single thing the Prophet ﷺ left off that was harmful except that he taught us. Every single thing, from the moment you go to sleep, there's adab, there's mannerisms in the way you sleep. From the moment you wake up, there's adab. When you use the lavatory, there's adab. When you eat, there's adab. When you speak, when you walk, you should be a Muslim wholeheartedly. Islam should be embedded in everything that you do. Your example, your qudwa should be the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It literally breaks my heart to know that there's Muslims, and it should for all of you, that they go to the toilet and they use the toilet as a kafir. Because of the fact that they want to fit in. Because of the fact that they feel that it's shameful to go to the toilet. You see Muslims, you go into a lavatory, and then you see Muslims, they go into the toilet and they come out without having a bottle or something that they have water. How are you cleaning yourself? How are you praying your next salah? Well, you go into the lavatory and then you come out just like that. هباء منثور, as if you just أنت حيوان كالأنعام بل هم أضل. هكذا وصفهم الله عز وجل. كالأنعام بل هم أضل. They are like cattle, but rather they are worse. They're more misguided. You can't take them as your means of what? Of guidance, ikhwani. It's not a laughing matter, wallahi. It's something that when you think about it, that's why we mentioned the hadith, إِنَّهُمَا مُعَذِّبَانِ. When the Prophet ﷺ asked the messenger, he asked the companion, that he told them first, he informed the companion, said, but verily they've been punished for two, both of them are being punished. And then the Messenger ﷺ said in this authentic narration, they are not being punished for something great, but rather it's something minor. And one of them was the one that did not clean himself when he would use the lavatory. So ikhwani, alaykum, it's upon you, it's upon me, it's upon everyone to teach our family members. Whether it will be your brothers, whether it be your sisters, whether it be your parents, whether it be your loved ones, those that you have some sort of authority over, or you have some sort of love for them, advise them, teach them. This is Islam, This is Islam. You should remind one another. It's important, it's incumbent. I can't stress enough how important it is. Where you see a Muslim, he goes into the lavatory and he just comes out worse than an animal. Who here has a cat? Who in this room has a cat? How does a cat relieve themselves? Think about it, ikhwani. Wallahi, deep it and think about it. Whenever a cat wants to relieve himself, it makes sure it goes far away from everyone. That's number one. It does this to indicate that it needs to go. And then when they finish, what do? They cover it. And then they clean themselves. فأنت Muslim, you're a Muslim, you can't even do something even simpler than this. And this is a haywan, this is a cat. This is a cat, so let alone a Muslim. There's akhlaq, there's adab in every single thing that you should do. The way you talk, the way you speak, the way you sit in gatherings, the way you sit when you sit next to your parents, the way you talk to your parents, everything. The way you sleep, the way we eat, everything. Alhamdulillah la ni'mat al-Islam. That's why some of the Salaf, they would say, I don't know what more to thank Allah over, yani whether to thank Allah of guiding me to Islam or thank Allah to guiding me to the Sunnah. Because both need thanks. You need to thank Allah Azza wa Jal for guiding you to Islam. So make sure if you're a Muslim, you've been guided, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, then make sure you learn about your religion and you act as a Muslim day in, day out. So on this topic here, it's mentioned, that's why I mentioned it, that these are the two things that are wajib. And of course we mentioned al-rih is tahir, so you don't need to make istinjar, wala istijmar. Then it's mentioned here that it is recommended when you're entering the lavatory, there's akhlaq. Look at this, subhanAllah. Look at our deen, how beautiful it is. So Allah Azza wa Jalla yumituna al-Islam wa yuhyina al-Islam. May Allah Azza wa Jalla make us die upon the state of Islam and resurrect us upon the state of Islam. And make us all enter Jannat al-Firdaus al-A'la bighayri hisab wala adhab. Make us all enter Jannat al-Firdaus, the highest rank of Jannah, without reckoning, without punishment. Here there's akhlaq. Point number one, that it is from the sunnah that when you're about to enter, yani before you enter the lavatory or the room, the bathroom, the washroom, that you say Bismillahi, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-khubthi wal-khaba'ith. What's the reason? Who can tell me what's the reason? What's one of the benefits? Why do you say this? What's your name? Saeed, why do you say this dua? Protection of what? Very good. Barakallahu feekum. Saeed, how old are you? MashaAllah. Saeed said, why? In order for you to what? Ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to protect you, because we know those inhabitants of the lavatory are the jinns, so you protect yourself. Another side note as well, many times we see, especially here in the West and everywhere, unfortunately, many of us have been afflicted with jinn, possession, sihr, and so many other balawa, so many other trials and tribulation. One of the reasons is that we don't protect ourselves, we don't have a husn. And that's why that book, I encourage everyone to have it, Husnul Muslim. The Mu'allif, rahimahullah, that passed away recently, that book is tremendous. You know, it's in English and it's Arabic. You can find it, you do adhkar for a reason, to protect yourself. And from the adhkar, from this application, is that you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, saying in the name of Allah, that you seek protection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the male and the female, khubthi wal khaba'ith. That's what khubthi wal khaba'ith. Before you go into the toilet. And then it's mentioned here, so this is when you want to make, عند الإرادة, when you have the intention, not when you enter, because we know that the name of Allah shouldn't be mentioned in such places, but rather when you have the intention. And then when you have left, وبعد الخروج, يعني بعد ما تخرج من الحمامات, after you leave, what do you say? غفرانك الحمد لله الذي أذهب عني الأذى وعافاني. Okay, and the ulama, they mention a benefit, we mention it, but in English, you say this dua, oh Allah, grant me your forgiveness. Praise belongs to Allah who removed harm from me and cured me. That meaning here, removed harm from me and cured me, الذي أذهب عني الأذى وعافاني, meaning because of the fact, who can tell me actually before I tell you, what's the reason you mentioned this dua? Anyone? What's the reason? Barakallah. But what's the hikmah? That's very good. But what's the hikmah behind this specific dua? What's the hikmah? What's the wisdom behind it? Think about it. It's mentioned here, oh Allah, Allahumma, okay, alhamdulillah, غفرانك, alhamdulillah, alladhi, you're praising Allah, alladhi, who has removed what? أذهب عني الأذى وعافاني, who has removed from me harm and cured me. Yes, what's your name? Who put the hand up? What's the reason? Barakallahu fikum. Because of the fact, because the hikmah, subhanAllah, once again, it's a ni'mah. Because of the fact that before you had gone into the toilet or the lavatory, you had an urge, you felt discomfort. And then Allah Azza wa Jalla made it possible for you to enter the toilet, to utilize the toilet, use it and then come out. And then you felt a feeling of relief. So that in itself, you need to thank Allah Azza wa Jalla, the ulama they mentioned. That in itself, you being able to use the hammamat, akramakumullah, you need to thank Allah Azza wa Jalla for being able to use it. Because as the brother mentioned, not everyone has the capability. So once again, it's a means of you thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the hikmah behind it. And then it's mentioned here وَتَغْطِيَةُ رَأْسٍ. It's mentioned from the Hanabila, they say that one should cover their head, yani use something تغطية, to cover their head, yani it's recommended to cover their head. What's the reason? The ulama, they mention, of course, the reason behind this specific part, to cover their head, because of the fact that when you go into such places, you should yani be covered. You should be covered because you're going to a place where you're going to relieve yourself. That's from the hikmah behind it. And then it's mentioned here, okay, وَانْتِعَالٌ, yani meaning na'al, yani you use na'al, you have yani like sandals. And the hikmah behind it is so that no such impurities touch your feet. Yani the najis wouldn't be from that which has touches you, yani, because of the fact that you're protected with your sandals. Okay, and then it's mentioned وَتَقْدِيمْ رِجِلِهِ الْيُسْرَى. The Prophet ﷺ كان يحب التيمن. The Prophet ﷺ used to love doing things with his right hand, with his right foot, that which is min bab al-takreem, that which is beloved to him, that which is yani, generous. For example, when he's eating something of goodness, you're going to eat. He'll say Bismillah and eat with his right hand. Okay? When he put his clothes on, he will start with his right side, yani meaning the right side. But when it's coming to a place which is aks, complete opposite, like going to a place of the hammamat, akramakumullah, it's not a place of takreem, it's somewhere where you go relieve yourself. So therefore, the Prophet used to what? Enter the toilet with his left foot. And that's from the sunnah. To enter the toilet with your left foot. Okay? And then of course when you're leaving it, just like the masjid, you enter the masjid with your right foot. And you leave because you're leaving a place of khair. You leave with your left. So the toilet is aks, the lavatory is aks. The complete opposite. You enter with your left and you leave with your right. Which mentioned here, aksu masjidin wa na'lin. It's complete opposite of the masjid. And then it's mentioned here, it is liked as well. وَبُعُدُ فِي فَضَائٍ. It is liked to go to relieve yourself. And this is referring to those that are out in the open, like the forest, mathalan, where there's no toilets, nothing where it's secluded. It's liked for you to go and relieve yourself somewhere far away, where no one can see you. Where no one can see you. Where no one can see you. And it's mentioned here, وَطَلَبُ مكان رخو. Here it's mentioned يعني لبول. يعني when you're supposed to go and urinate, if you want to when one wants to urinate, they utilize a space where it's going to be deep. يعني nothing is going to, مثلا you don't go, hence why we gave the example here. In the West you see that which they use, it literally splatters back on you. But here the mentioning is that if you're in open, you use something رخو, يعني something that يعني لا يرتد إليك, it's not going to come back to you. Okay? Yani the qutarat, the drops of your urine is not going to come back and hit you and touch you on your garments. And then it's mentioned here وَمَسَ الذَّكْرِ بِالْيَدِ الْيُسْرَى إِذَا انْقَطَعَ الْبَوْلُ مِنْ أَصْلِهِ إِلَى رَأْسِهِ ثَلَاثًا وَنَتْرُهُ ثَلَاثًا. The meaning here is that yani, a person should make sure, giving you a summary of that, a person should make sure that when they are cleaning themselves, yani istinja and istijmar, when they're cleaning their private part, they should make sure that no drips are left of the urine. To add to this, ikhwani, okay, to add to this, it's important, the ulama, they mention here, it's mentioned from the Hanabila that you should do it 3 times. You need to make sure nothing is left of impurity on your private part. However, the ulama, they mention as long as it doesn't cause harm. The main thing is that there's no urine left. However, to add to this, ikhwani, in the West, once again, a lot of people get waswas. You see them doing istinja, istijmar 20 times before they pray salah. Next thing you know, the salah is gone. Don't have any waswas. We know the qaida that al-yaqeen la yuzaluhu al-shak. Yaqeen, certainty, is not going to ever be taken away with doubt. If you're doubtful in something, it's built upon certainty. You are certain that you cleaned yourself properly. There's no urine. Therefore, tawakkal ala Allah and go and pray salah. Don't go back into the matter and make wudu again and then go back and clean yourself, because the shaitan is stopping you from doing khair. And this is from the waswas of the shaitan. And then it's mentioned here, ikhwani, that it's mentioned here that it is disliked as well for you just to enter the lavatory for no reason. Okay? For you to enter the lavatory for no reason. It is disliked. Okay? وَكُرِهَ دُخُولُ خَلَاءٍ بِمَا فِيهِ ذِكْرُ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى. Also, if you enter the lavatory for the mushaf, for example, let's say for example myself, I've got a mushaf, and I enter the toilet without no reason or purpose, then it is disliked. But the ulama, they mention if you're fearful of leaving it outside and someone taking it, then that's the only time when it will be permissible for you to enter that which has the name of Allah Azza wa Jal, if you're in a state where you cannot leave it outside. But otherwise, it's better for you to leave it outside. Another mas'ala is the phones. The ulama, they mention anything that has Quran on it, like your phones. If you lock it and there's no Quran, it's not open on the safha, then this doesn't go under this. Rather, it's okay because of course it's closed and nothing from the Quran is in open. And then it's mentioned here, وَرَفْعُ ثَوْبٍ قَبْلَ دُنُوٍ مِنَ الْأَرْضِ. It's of course from the sunnah that you lift up your garments. Before you enter, you lift up your garments before you enter to use a lavatory. All of that is going back to you being safeguarded from anything, from your urine hitting and touching your garments. So therefore you've gone in, you've relieved yourself, you've cleaned yourself, you purified yourself, and also your garments are free from najis, free from any impurities. That's what it's mentioning here. And same thing, وَبَوْلٌ فِي شَقٍ وَنَحْوِهِ وَمَسُّ فَرْجٍ بِيَمِينٍ بِلَا حَاجَ وَاسْتِقْبَالُ النِّيرَيْنِ. And here it's mentioned as well, same thing, that you should make sure that nothing, that you, all of this kalam is going back to making sure that nothing hits back at you from your urine. And also it is not liked, makruh, it's disliked for you to, when you make purification, when you're doing istinja and istijmar, to make sure which hand you do it with. We call it the toilet hand, okay? This is called the what? When you teach your children, like I teach my children, this is called the toilet hand. The left hand is the toilet hand. It's used for you to what? To clean yourself with your left hand. As for the right hand, استعماله للخير, to eat, to give salam, and so on and so forth. So therefore, here it's mentioned that in the Hanabila that it's makruh for you to cleanse yourself with your right hand. Okay? To cleanse yourself with your right hand. And also it's mentioned here to face the sun or the moon, it being unlawful to face, to turn one's back in the direction of the prayer. Okay? This is also from the means of that which is disliked. Okay? Istiqbal qiblatin. For you to face the qibla or to have your back facing the qibla. But of course we know in certain circumstances when you have a lavatory set up in, for example here in the West, that could be out of your control. That could be out of your control. And it's mentioned here, وَلُبْثُ فَوْقَ الْحَاجَةِ, to stay in the lavatory without a means, without a reason. Many times, unfortunately, even the ikhwa, sometimes you hear that they stay in the toilets for like half an hour having a spa. Having a spa 30 minutes, you're a man. You go in the toilet and you do what you need to do and come out. As for the women folk, we know, of course, للأسف الشديد, we know that they do that. But as a man, it's mentioned here that it's makruh for you to go in and stay there. For you to go in and stay there. You go in, do what you need to do, and you come out. Okay? And then it's mentioned here as well, when it's a place where you shouldn't, of course this doesn't apply to the day and age we have today, but unfortunately you do see it, and hopefully inshallah none of the Muslims do it, where you have someone go in public somewhere, and it's mentioned here in a place where there is like a path, and he urinates. This is makruh as well. Okay, but alhamdulillah, we don't need to go into that because inshallah this shouldn't be from the attributes of the Muslims. Okay, because this is from the means of that which is haram. It's mentioned here, وَحَرُمَ. Okay, so it's haram in the al-Hanabila. It's haram for you to do this. To face the qibla, have your back towards it, to stay in the toilet, in the lavatory for a long period of time without any reason, to urinate upon the pathway, that which people may come across, and also under a tree, or under a fruit bearing, a tree that has fruit on it. All of this, whether it's been eaten or not, whether people eat from that fruit or that tree or not, it is haram for you to do so. And inshallah, I think on that note we conclude, ikhwani. How long we got left? I don't want the ikhwa to stay longer. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. And we'll continue بإذن الله تعالى إخواني next week. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. جزاكم الله خير.